I just kind of want to recap something before this other story because I was like, they're all bad. They're all bad. They've always been bad. If you go look at the history of the CIA and the history of, I'm like, almost threw up on myself. Okay, so the history of the CIA, if you go back and look at the history of the CIA, Homeland, FBI, all these agencies, right? They were extraordinarily torturous. The CIA was known for raping people. Um, yeah, there was that the rectal feeding. Yeah, so there's a lot of things there, right? So does anybody question the validity that they're terrible? Okay, so the operative or intern. Okay, so Tim Ballard's story keeps changing. Now this was from November from last year, just a couple of months ago actually, and then they go because he worked at the CIA and then the Homeland, and then the civil suit accuses Ballard of being an unpaid intern with the CIA who was fired after failing a polygraph test. Our states the allegation is false, but either way, Ballard's story of working for the CIA has not been portrayed consistently. I like how like nobody even wants to be associated, but before like they bring in all these people like Peter thought all the people that are pro rapists, calling women liars, being abusive, all those people are the rapists, okay? Because anybody talking like that and going on is definitely a rapist. So this news story, okay, so I actually brought this story up too. So this woman, she's like a whistleblower, right? We have to praise all the whistleblowers that risk their job to expose the disgusting behavior of white men. Okay, so anyway, I go anybody who even gets into these agencies, like you have to like bend to their mentality first before you even get in there, because it's not a bar set by women, it's a bar set by rapist white men. Okay, so because that's who created the agencies first, right? So they made all the rules, so women have to actually submit to their rules and not submitting to all this other stuff. But anyway, so it says the CIA this week terminated a woman whose whistleblower account of being assaulted in a stairwell at the spy agency's headquarters prompted a flood of colleagues to come forward with their own complaints of sexual misconduct. That's like the worst thing you could ever do. It's like the worst thing you could ever do is cause this flood of people going, we all got raped up in here. I'll get rid of that woman. That woman just destroyed our credibility. Like they ever had any. Okay, so the woman's attorney called the action a brazen retaliation. Okay, what do rapists do? This is why I was focusing on now the actions of a rapist. And I'm not talking about just being, the act of rape itself. In a sexual way. I'm talking about the actions of a rapist, the mindset of the rapist of what they do in everyday life. Because they're anti-agency, they don't believe in it, and they're violent, and they do all these things. So when you go tell on them, they always lie, right? They lie, they cover up, they do tons of criminal behavior because it's associated with that word that I continually say, and they would retaliate. Like it's just a given that they would. And also you're just like they have this thing of like you're disrespecting me as a man and my authority, woman, and then they can get violent, and then it leads to femicide, right? So those are the actions of them. So I was like, yeah, focus on it, because you don't even need to know. This is what I was trying to explain to people. I go, you don't even need to be touched and raped to know that somebody's a rapist. And so when you understand the mindset, when you're talking to people, they actually tell you. And so that was part of the other thing. But the CIA, we always know. So anyway, while the CIA said that accusations was factually inaccurate. What was factually inaccurate? So they throw out things like this. It could be like, it didn't happen at 5 o'clock. It happened at 5:01. So the whole thing is factually inaccurate. But they're just throwing out factually inaccurate. Like, what was factually inaccurate that you're claiming is factually inaccurate? They just say that. Like, it's a gaslight. It's like, factually inaccurate. It's like, nothing could be at all. It's like, what were you talking about? It wouldn't comment. It wouldn't. I like it. It wouldn't comment further on the case. Yeah, CIA isn't it. And declined to explain why the 36-year-old did not make it through the agency's clandestine officer training program known as the farm. Oh, the pig farm? And unlike many of her classmates, was not hired into another job. To be clear, the CIA does not tolerate sexual assault, sexual harassment, or whistleblower retaliation. CIA spokesperson Tammy Thorpe. Oh, we have a woman trying to defend this. I know the pawn. They're the pawns. They're ridiculous. And the agency uses consistent processes to ensure the fair and equal treatment of every officer going through training. The woman's termination came less than 6 months after she filed a federal civil lawsuit alleging the CIA retaliated against her for reporting what she said was a 2022 stairwell assault in Langley, Virginia, to law enforcement and testified about it in a closing congressional hearing. The lawsuit accused the agency of giving her harsher performance reviews and slut-shaming her by improperly releasing her personal information during the state prosecution last year of Ashkan Beytapur, a then fellow CIA trainee, convicted of assaulting her with a scarf. Okay, yeah. Then the woman's attorney, Kevin, told AP that the CIA has now unlawfully ended a young woman's career only because she had the moral courage lacking in her managers to stand up to be a witness about her sexual assault. Exactly. That's just the common framework that's been going on, right? The common thing that's been going on with everybody. Like anybody that stands up, all of a sudden, boom, your career's over. Because men control everything, and then some stupid woman stands up here and defends that kind of conduct. The Tammy, that type of people. Yeah. Sounds a little jealous, maybe, for somebody. You couldn't pay me enough to do that crap. So it says the agency festered workplace sexual violence problem is now harming the retention of young women who won't put up with any of it any longer. The woman who is not being identified because the AP does not generally identify victims of alleged sexual abuse was credited with launching a reckoning of sorts. I know it's like of sorts at the CIA because hers was a rare allegation of sexual misconduct at the super secret spy agency to make it into a public courtroom. But we knew it was happening because they were doing rectal feeding, dude. Like, what the hell? It did come out. Like, the earlier stuff came out. And actually, there was some earlier stuff when I was trying to pull the early news stories from 1990, which I believe, I don't remember now. It was either at a prison or it was the CIA. It was one of these things. And it was all torture stuff. They said they tied somebody up with chains and started whipping them and stuff. And it was literally in the 90s. And I pulled that up a long time ago. It was probably on the old Twitter. I don't know. I was going through tons of stuff. I was just skimming through stories because I was looking for, historical things and things that were happening at the time. And I was running into things I wasn't even looking for. And it was frightening. I was like, I love how the public's totally down with it. They're like, yeah, beat them people with chains and whips. The Christians, because that's who the public was then. It's like an AP investigation found the case helped in boldened at least two dozen women, you guys, to come forward to authorities and Congress over the past 2 years with their own accounts of the CIA of sexual assault. Yeah, the rest of them are like, you know what, we're going to suck it up and not lose our jobs and we're going to totally defend it to the end. Oh, the rest of them are doing that. So it's all unwanted touching, and what they contend is a campaign to keep them from speaking out. Their accusations range from lewd remarks about sexual fantasies at after work happy hours to a case in which a senior manager allegedly showed up at the subordinate's house at night with a firearm demanding sex. Some of the alleged incidents go back years. Oh, yeah, wait till you get to the 90s ones. That had to be terrible. It's no doubt about it. There's victims. And took place as officers were on risky covert missions overseas with Tim Ballard. I was like, when they were with Tim Ballard, they all got raped, dude. Okay, so anyway, and while others it's not funny. The stories of Tim is just like, it like expected. It's like you heard CIA, and I was like, oh, rapist. Okay, while others took place at CIA headquarters, you guys do remember? You do remember when Bush was groping a little kid, that 16-year-old, and it wasn't that long ago before he died. And yeah, at the head, I think it was at the headquarters. I pulled that story up and everybody was totally okay with it. I go, the old man is molesting a kid at the CIA office. And the amount of people in public that okayed it, they were all outing themselves as a bunch of rapist pedos. I was like, holy crap. I can't even believe it happened though. Like at the office on a kid, and everybody's like, oh, he's just always touches, little girls' butts, and all this stuff. The wife, I think it was the wife, somebody did. It was horrible. And that was in, I think, 2016 or something. I'd have to pull it up again. But he was the one hanging out with Peter Nygaard, the other human trafficker that's into kids. Of course, like they said, hang out. He's sitting there grabbing kids' butts. So some other guy's in front of him with kids and smacking them around. He's like, it's totally all good. We all do that. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, CIA office. Okay, so Congress, you know what? Let me find it because I want to make sure. I was like, that's exactly it. You have to search for Bush Groped CIA. Okay, so yes. But Corrigan was crushed by her encounter. Bush, then 79 years old, her butt in November 2003 event in the Woodlands, Texas office at the CIA agency where Corrigan's father gathered with fellow officers and family members to meet Bush, and grabbed her butt without consent. Well, she's a minor, she can't consent, and who would consent to that anyways? It remains unclear whether the woman's firing will prompt further action. Offices of the U.S. senators leading the inquiry, Virginia Democrat Mark Warner and Florida Florida Republican Marco Rubio, did not respond to requests for comment. Carol, the woman's attorney, said that she had been given protected whistleblower status before speaking with Congress, and then this is familiar with Whistleblower Protection Act. Caution that such protections can be limited, especially at the CIA. Tom Devine, a longtime whistleblower rights advocate who is legal director for the Government Accountability Project, said CIA employees don't have the same rights as other federal employees because of national security concerns. Being a rapist is a worldwide concern. Okay, that's a bodily security concern. So everybody should know. You could blow the whistle, but only within the intel community. Yeah, no. We're not supposed to know government's a bunch of rapists. We already know they're a bunch of rapists, but they're just like, we gotta protect ourselves being rapists up in here. And it was meant to do that, right? They're like, we gotta protect ourselves from women telling on us from being mega monster rapists, right? So when she went to the police, she was very much on her own. It's an obnoxious loophole. She's lucky the police did anything because the police are also rapists, and so that's another thing about it. So in her testimony to a Virginia judge last summer, the woman recounted the moment when Betapor, that guy, allegedly tightened the scarf around her neck and tried to kiss her against her will. That guy's a psychotic. I remember that story. Like, he just kept doing it, and he was like, a total whack job. And that's who your government is, a total whack job. So he made a face like he was trying to really hurt me. That face that's, stays with me to this day. That's the hardest part. Yeah, like Ted Bundy, right? The mindset of a rapist is exactly like Ted Bundy. It's not different. That's what I was saying. I go, oh, yeah, you should know them by their looks and judge them by their looks. And you're saying that face, the look on the face. Yes, that's what I look for. So he acknowledged wrapping the scarf around the woman in the stairwell, but insisted his actions were intended in jest during a 40-minute walk together. In jest? I just randomly choke women in jest. Okay, the incident, his attorney said, it's just a joke that didn't land the way it was intended to land. Now remember, the rapist, it's not about sex, right? It's about, oh, it's all funny. I'm a sadist. I really enjoy choking you to death. Yeah, that's why Ted Bundy kept doing what he did, because he loved what he did. He loved raping and killing. And to him, it's a joke. So the 39-year-old from Alabama, an Alabama native, and a former Navy intelligence officer. See, we talked about the military, and there's literally no way to fix that crap right now. Remained employed at the CIA for several months after he was convicted in August for a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor to choke a woman and battery, and sentenced to 6 months probation in order to surrender any firearms. Okay, so choking a woman is a misdemeanor. That's insulting. We have so much femicide because of this crap. Tap, tap, it's not that bad, dude. But as of last month, he no longer works for the CIA, according to a person familiar with the situation who wasn't authorized to discuss the matter and spoke on the condition of anonymity. Okay, anyway, he deferred questions to his attorney, Jennifer. He had to get a female attorney, as they all do. Okay, and then he maintains his innocence, and, who cares? Okay, so retaliation, dude. Government does not want you to hear all their rapist fantasies and their stories and what they're doing up in here. And all the women have been dealing with it and then letting them rape us all. That's how they go and target the whole class of women. That's government. That's big government. That's them. So when you tell them, oh, these guys are like gang members and they're raping all the women on the street, they're like, nah. What? We do that here too. And we're going to send naked pictures of myself. That's in the FBI one, where he's like sending naked pictures to these ladies and stuff. And then the other ones were like raping all the trainees. So they had to get raped into the FBI. And then just like, football, all the men have to get raped into playing football. And so then they all got touched, and then they're all making the news all the time, right? That's that cycle right there. So yeah, it's no different. Most of these guys did play school football, so they all got raped and they raped others, and then they joined. That's what I was talking about, the series of events there. It's not like, oh, they just joined the CIA and then became a rapist. It's like, oh, no. We all went to school. I was like, they were rapists in junior high. And then they started raping in high school. And then when they got into college, they raped everybody. And then they got into the CIA. And then they become the Tim Ballard. Oh, we're against human trafficking. Oh, wait, we got to hook up with some women up in here. Okay, you got to pretend that you're my girl. And I got to act out, doing some sexual acts on you to make it look real. That thing. So, yeah, that's all of them. Uh-huh. And their wording, I told you guys, the wording on their legal, like they're like, men beware. These women can blackmail you if you hook up with them. It's like, they shouldn't be hooking up with anybody on their like bullshit here, and they're the predators. So it's not blackmail. That's called them being rapists and abusing their position of power.